guys, this is Stormouse03, and this is my Witcher 2 Assassins of Kings Dark Difficulty walkthrough. Here we are at the start of Chapter 3. So you're going to have a little introductory cutscene here that I'm going to skip the majority of. I just wanted to get the chapter title on there. And we're going to be starting out on these cliffs right outside Loch Muin with Iorveth, and the very first thing I'm going to do, hopefully, is level up. You gain a bunch of levels at the end of Chapter 2, and I put my points in as I was going along, but you'll see that I'm level 32 right now. I'm going to put my point into this position thing so that I don't take as much damage when things hit me in the back, which is very good, and strategic as well. Like, I want to upgrade a couple of these sword things in preparation for the final boss, or I guess the possible final boss. So you'll find out when we get more toward the end of this chapter, but there are basically, I guess, two final bosses. There's one at the end of Chapter 3, and then there's one in an epilogue, and the one in the epilogue is optional. So I consider the final boss of Chapter 3 to be the final boss of the game, so in any case, the reason why it's important to do some of those swordsmanship things for that final boss is because you can't really use magic against it. And so that puts a hitch into the way that you've been playing, or the way that I've been playing this game the entire way through, is, you know, that I'm pretty powerful with the magic, or the signs. And for that particular boss, the signs are not as useful. The only one that really is useful is Ken. So you have to, it's your test of, can you actually play this game without using the magic? Maybe. And luckily enough for me, I can. So but having a couple of those upgrades on the sword damage and the taking less damage from behind and those kinds of things are really useful, especially for that particular part. So it's kind of a long journey down these cliffs here. There's a bunch of these harpies on the way down, but if you're anything like me, you've had plenty of practice killing harpies in Chapter 2. So these should be no big deal as far as, you know, taking them out. And the structure of this game is kind of interesting because Chapters 1 and 2 were really lengthy. Like, there was a lot of stuff to do and a lot of things to cover in Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. And Chapter 3 is not that long. I would say Chapter 3 is half as long, or maybe even less, as either one of those chapters. There are a lot of, you know, obviously important things going on in Chapter 3. It's the culmination of everything that's been going on in the story, but it's not a big area, and there are not very many side quests, and there are not very many parts to the main quest. There are a couple of really big choices to make that will definitely affect your end game, but as far as actual, you know, length, as far as gameplay of this chapter, it's not too long at all. So there's that camp of people there. If you're on the Roach Path, you can walk through there, but we're not on the Roach Path, we're on the Iorveth path, and so we cannot walk through there. Or you can, but you have to fight all those guys, and there's really no need. It'll get you some XP, but there's no need to go through that. You're gonna level up plenty, especially if you're as far along as I am. So there are 2 Arrakis that spawn here. I got slapped from behind by this second one. He sort of snuck up on me. I did what you should never do. What you really don't want to do is get in between them. It puts you in a really bad spot. But luckily, you know, my armor and weapons and roll is sufficient to get me through these fights. And for an enemy that was very intimidating in Chapter 1, not so intimidating in Chapter 3. And the reason that you come over here is to fight those 2 guys and get some experience, but mainly to go over here and get this sword. So this is a really good silver sword. It does a little better than the sword that I currently have equipped, and so that was the entire motivation was to get this sword. So I'm going to equip that. I might enhance it with some things, although I probably won't. I'll probably save my runes for when I get the 3rd dark armor set in this chapter. But this sword is great because it gives you, not only does it do more damage, but it gives you plus 25% to gargoyles and large enemies, which is the majority of what you're gonna be fighting monster-wise in this chapter. So this sword is definitely something that you want to pick up. So there's another Arrakis in this cave, and for whatever reason I thought that I could just jump over to it, but you can't. And you'll see me doing my medallion, setting that off again, and that's to do exactly what I'm doing right now. Make sure that I find all the little caches of ore, hopefully find a few silver pieces. No, you can't jump over there. You have to jump over here. But yeah, hopefully pick up a few silver pieces from this cave, because we will again be needing some for crafting our final set of weapons and armor. So yeah, just be checking your corners.
How many more can there be?
Deal with this Arrakis, who is very pretty. Like, this one's really colorful. It's neat how they have kind of different designs for the Arrakis. Some of them, you know, look different than others, which I think is neat. I mean, they're these big snail spider things, and gave them some color, which is always good. More color is generally good in games. For some specific ones, you know, a lack of color palette adds to the environment. You know, it adds to the ambiance and the feeling. But in general, I like to see more color and more variation to the environments and the color schemes and stuff. So anytime I get to see an enemy that looks like a patchwork quilt, it gets me a little bit happy. So gonna loot the rest of this cave, and I'm not sure if there are more enemies in here. There might be a couple of rot fiends. also might be empty. Except for a bunch of stuff to loot. Which is always good, you know. Who comes into a cave to fight enemies? I know I always go into a cave to find stuff. So we've got a few more harpies and a little bit more of these cliffs to climb up now that we've gone through that little secret tunnel. We're going to be taking the back way into Loch Muin, scaling a wall and getting a little bit of story, history stuff from Iorveth. I thought that harpy was just going to die from the incineration damage, but nope. No, she did not. And why I haven't used this heliotrope sign is beyond me. I'm such like a hoarder of things. I hoard my stuff, I hoard my magical abilities, and, you know, sometimes that is to my detriment. I'm lucky that I haven't hoarded my freaking skill points. In some games I will hang on to my skill points because I'm not sure, like, well, what do I want to put them into? I don't know. Maybe I should wait and see what I like and then put points into that, and that's just, it's not always the best way to go about things, but it's how I am. The first step toward change is identifying the problem, I guess. It's just taking in the sights here. I like the design of this city. The sort of circular, the circular design with all the, you know, rings and, you know, going from one section to the other, moving toward the center. It was kind of weird to figure out how to get around, because there are a lot of places that are sort of blocked off and doors that are locked and areas that you don't want to go through because people will try to arrest you and things. So when I played this for the first time, it was kind of hard to figure out exactly, you know, where to go and what to do. But luckily, I have since figured out this area, so I pretty much know exactly where I'm going now. When you go into this section right here, you're going to have some gargoyles spawn in, and so you just want to be cautious of them. Your Igni sign does not do very much damage to them, if any at all. They're made of stone, and thus they don't really take damage from Igni. Here they are, our lovely friends, and they also explode when they die, similar to the rock beans. So they're gonna drop in. Kin, once again, is your good buddy, because it's going to help you avoid some damage from these guys, because they can be, when you get them clustered on you right like this, it's just not good. Like, look at that. Almost dead. Almost dead. And so the moral to that story is to not be so greedy. I went in for several hits, and I got a little greedy with it. You know, did not roll away quickly enough, and ended up getting slapped for it, and almost dying. So, again, why I'm not using my heliotrope sign on these guys, I can't tell you. Because you should. If you have it available to you, you should be using it for these fights with these gargoyles, because they can mess you up really quickly. the thing about this one right here is that Iorveth, as you saw, he can help you a little bit, so it benefits you to sort of draw them over to him, to at least, you know, have him distract them while you roll about and let your magic come back and get yourself out of harm's way for a little while. So you can do this next bit that I'm going to do now, or you can wait. I just wanted to go ahead and get this done because I really don't like this area to fight these particular gargoyles. And so I wanted to go ahead and take care of this after I'd killed them once. So once you go through this door here, you're going to have a little puzzle to do. And what you have to do is extinguish these signs, these little runic signs, in the correct order to take away this enchantment that will make the gargoyles go away, so they won't respawn here. And so this thing says, "A doze-long shadow, the moon quietly moans, it's autumn already." And so what you want to look for are 4 key things: animal, something that mentions animal, something that mentions art, something that mentions sky, and something that mentions time. And so each one of these symbols corresponds to one of those 4 things, and you want to set them off in the order that you saw in the little poem. So the first one is animal, and that is the sign that is sort of a sideways S, it looks like. It's on the wall behind me, not this one. This was me trying to remember which was which, so forgive me for taking a little bit of time there. But this one is animal, and I'm actually shocked that I remember which sign corresponds to what. And so the next one is this one, which is sky, the sort of square. The triangular conic looking thing is art, and the thing that looks like a fish is, or an almost hourglass, is time. So that was the order of the things in the poem, and that is the correct order to solve that little puzzle. You'll get these elder blood boots diagram and some stuff from the chest. I'm not going to be making any of the elder blood gear just because it's not as good as the gear that I'm going to be making, and this chapter is so short that there's really no point in making armor that, you know, you're not going to use for very long because you just don't have enough resources for it. Making the armor takes a lot of your resources. Making weapons doesn't take as much, especially if it's not a silver weapon, so you don't have to buy silver ore. And so there will be a sword that I'm gonna make, but as far as armor goes, there's just not much point. And so that's the first phase of the gargoyle contract done. There will be 2 more, and we haven't even picked up that side quest yet, but you can go ahead and do it on your way in, so why not? You know, why not go ahead and get it over with and not have to go back to that area, because it's a long way to backtrack through a lot of doors and loading screens. So when you come up here, there's going to be these soldiers. You'll have a cutscene. You'll talk to Iorveth, and you can choose this. Oh, I'll let them arrest me, but don't do that, because that will take away all of your stuff, and you won't get it back. So I am not going to do that at all. I'm going to go through here. I'm going to do a couple of side quests first, and then I'm going to meet Iorveth down in the sewers and take that road. And I would, you know, encourage anyone to do the same, because the only benefit to doing the, well, I'll let myself get arrested thing is that it's quicker and you don't have to fight enemies down in the sewers. So You want to be careful walking through here. There's going to be some more gargoyles that spawn. This is another area where there's these, runes available to do. I'm actually not going to do this one right now because the reason why I did the other one is because it's such an out-of-the-way area. I don't like the area as far as fighting these gargoyles, and I didn't want to have to go back and do it again and have to kill them again. But this area I don't find as irritating, and so I'm not going to finish this part up because I want to make sure that if for whatever reason I don't get enough gargoyle dust from the other place, that I have this place where I can farm some gargoyle dust, because you're going to need 9 pieces of gargoyle dust in order to make the last set of armor and weapons. So there's a funny, can you hit him? No. And that's the place where you would go down to solve the little rune puzzle. Again, not doing that right this moment because I want to keep them available if in case I need more gargoyle dust. And for this, you want to sneak through here because you don't want to aggro those guys. But when you come into this area, you're going to have to deal with this idiot again. Silgrat, who you'll remember from Chapter 2, you beat him at fist fighting in Bergen, and he wants a rematch because he's a glutton for punishment, and for whatever reason he thinks it's going to go differently this time, and it's not. I'm going to beat him up, and he's going to regret ever meeting me and ever following me all the way to this place. And so once you knock him out, that will be this quest that it got triggered in Chapter 2, but you couldn't do anything with it until now. But it will finish this score to settle quest. So that's over now. You get your XP, and he'll leave you alone. Thank goodness. And now I'm going to move on to the Poker Face side quest, because these people are right here. I'm going to be speeding through this because you've seen a lot of the dice poker already, and it's just more of the same. You want to fight these 2 sort of common looking folk first, and I'm going to just do this exactly like I always do it. Use the corner trick to bunch my dice up, and then hopefully that helps you roll a few things in common, and then use that side over there to try to influence where the dice are going to land, and make sure that you get some good pairs. And that is the trick that I used to get the 5 of a kind. I do not get that during this playthrough because it's a bastard. It's a bastard to get that achievement. That achievement is so random and based on luck. It's probably about 95% luck and 5% using a trick like this, bunching stuff up in the corner. Because, I mean, the drawback to that is, yeah, it helps you to be able to just sort of drop them down so that whatever is facing up, generally you roll it, but, getting all 5 of them so that when you drop them down, they're gonna hit the same side is just so random. And even if you roll like 3 or 4 of a kind, getting that last one to hit on what you need, it's just unbelievable. And so she was the last of the people that you had to play. You had to play those first 2 common folk first, then you had to play the sorcerer guy, and then you had to play his apprentice, this lady. And that was the order that you needed to defeat those 4 people in. And she then points you toward your last competitor, the incredible Lockhart, who sounds like an arrogant jerk. And so we're gonna go beat him and finish up that particular side quest, which is cool. But yeah, the dice poker, that one achievement, that is the one achievement for this game that, you know, if you are a good player and you're going for completion on this game, that might be the one that stands between you and 100%, because it's just pretty much entirely based on luck. Like I said, you can use that corner trick to help you a little bit, but you know, it's that by far not a guarantee that is going to be all that effective. It's just more of a test of patience and how long you're willing to sit there and roll those dice and hope that you get what you need in order to make that happen. It's just horrific. I think it probably took me about maybe an hour or two of sitting there with, you know, some videos on that I was listening to and half watching while I rolled those dice over and over and over and over again in that first area in the prologue where you can roll dice. So when you come up this way, you get a little cutscene with these two scientist guys that you met in chapter 1 who gave you that potion to drink, and they're going to want you to help them do something. I believe that's part of a DLC. This is the enhanced edition, and so I think that quest is something that came along with the DLC. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that may be specific to the enhanced edition or the DLC content. So this is the incredible Lockhart. He's going to be your final dice poker competitor of the game. And so you want to play against him exactly the same as all the others. And again, it's very much based on luck. Like, just because he's supposed to be the most difficult person does not mean that he actually is more difficult. I mean, I beat him the first time here, so it's just the randomness of this stupid minigame that determines how irritating it might be for you. But that's him defeated, and he has the alternate to the gold here is actually some pretty good armor reinforcements and sword enhancements and stuff like that. So I'm gonna actually take the armor reinforcement because it's called the runic armor enhancement or runic armor enforcement, and it's pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and take that instead of money, but you can take money or any of those things that you wish. And that is Poker Face. All of the poker faces complete. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next video to continue chapter 3.